Welcome back to Agogi Game Academy, or AGA. Today we're talking about games 21 through 30 on the list.
30
on the list of games under $30, kind of our favorite games, the ones that we've played anyway, under $30, and so we are continuing down that route. So let's start it. Number 21. Also, before we get into those games, I did want to mention you can see this article. It's you can Google it, AGA.
30 board games under $30.
30 board games under $30, or we will also annotate it below, right here. But let's get to it. Number 21. So we went to a different type of game with this one, and
completely.
It's a kid game. This is one we liked. It's a kid game. It's called Bugs in the Kitchen.
But yes, even though it is a kid's game, most of the adults in our family gather around, start playing this game just because it's such a fun concept. So basically,
it really is.
It can have up to 4 players, and throughout the game, you're trying to get this little cockroach to go into your corner of the kitchen.
Yep.
And you roll a dice which has a fork, spoon, knife, or anything that you want. You roll the dice and it tells you what you can move.
Oh yeah, like a wild.
Yeah.
So like you roll a die, and it on the die has a fork, spoon, knife, and that just corresponds with certain pieces on the board that you're allowed to flip.
That you can,
and then the wild means you can flip any one you want.
Exactly.
But it's really fun because it's kind of this very fast-paced game because it's like this little cockroach that has a
battery in it.
That makes it vibrate across the table, and it really works. It
does.
Vibrates in a single direction, and so as you roll the die, and it says knife, now I got to look for a knife one that I can turn to try to get him to direct him back toward me. And then the next person, as fast as they can, they pick up the die and roll it, and they try to... And so it's just this very quickly going from player to player, trying to direct the cockroach back to you. And eventually, obviously, somebody manages to get it there. I think it's first to 3 wins. And so it's really fun. It's really fun to play with kids because they're trying to do it as well, but it's fun to play with adults too if you get it, kind of just a stupid fun game. To have just a little bit of fun. So very good, under $30, well worth trying if you have kids, or even if you don't and you just kind of like silly games. This is definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on. Number 22, Citadels, which has completely changed obviously from the one before. But Citadels is a really fun one. It's really a card-based game.
It is,
where you're trying to attempt to get the most victory points, and the way that you do that is by building districts, I think, in the city.
Yep. And
the first person to build 7 districts wins. Well, in order to do that, everyone every round assumes a character.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
So, different things like an assassin and a king and different things like that. And depending on who starts, right? If I'm the king, I start the round and I get to pick, right? So you shuffle all the character cards, and every round it changes. So do I want to be the king again and go first, or do I want to be the assassin, or do I want to be somebody else, the architect? Right, and so I pick that, and then I pass it on, and then it goes all the way around. And then after that's happened, you kind of go through the number of people, and they choose what they want to do that round. And so you can collect coins and do all kinds of different things.
But it allows you to build different parts of the city.
But the reason I like this game so much anyway is that the characters change every single round.
I like that.
So I can be a king this round, an architect next round, an assassin the next round, and it doesn't really matter. Whereas some games you kind of assume the character
in the beginning, and then
definitely a really fun one. You kind of need more players. It's not like one you'd play with 3 players as well. You probably could, or 4 players, but I like 6, 7, 8 players where there's lots of people doing lots of things. And so
it's just better.
Definitely try it out if that sounds appealing to you. All right, moving on. Okay, so this one was one I just recently found. Very fun. It's called Quicks, and it's a very cheap game. It's like $10 maybe online. And in essence, in Quicks, what happens is you have a handful of dice. 4 different colors? Let me look real quick. 4 different colors. 4 different colors and 2 white colors. And so on your turn, you roll a dice, and you're trying to cross out one of the items on your card. The problem is, as you can see, we'll put it up here. As you can see, if I'm wanting to cross out a red 5 because that's what I rolled, then I can't ever go back and cross out 2, 3, or 4. Now, the essence, the whole purpose of the game is to get the most number of points. And the way you score points is at the bottom. You can see that if I've crossed out 5 red squares on the board, then I'm going to get 15 points for red. And if I crossed out 7 yellow ones, I'm going to get 28 points, and so on and so forth. And so the whole point is to cross out as many of the numbers as you can throughout the game by whatever you roll. The problem is you're at the mercy of the dice. If you don't have any good rolls, sometimes you scratch. And if you scratch, you get too many scratches, 4 scratches, the game ends, and it is what it is. What I like about this game is it's very luck-based, but it's so strategic depending on what you choose to scratch or to cross out when. You know, if I roll some dice and I say I'm going to cross out, right at the beginning of the game, I'm going to cross out my green 8, well, suddenly I can't go back and get the green 12, 11, 10, and 9. And so anyway, point being is it's a luck-based dice game with lots and lots of strategy, but it's very easy to play. It's very quick.
And the concept's
Can you
not
imagine?
hard.
It's quick.
Yeah, I know, quick. And the concept isn't hard at all, you know, which is why I like it. I mean, I've played it only a couple times compared to Nathan, but you know, it's an easy concept and it's still a lot of fun.
It takes a minute or two to learn. Okay, so I'm rolling dice and I'm trying to cross out the cards, numbers on the card. That's really it. Now the strategy comes in on when to cross out what and when to avoid crossing anything out at all. And but very, very fun. Definitely worth trying if you guys like dice games in general, and then you like a little bit of strategy mixed into there. All right, next one. Let's move on. Number 24, Things. Things is one we've had for quite a long time. Yeah. And in essence, in Things, you just have a concept, a pile of cards, and you could honestly play without the box altogether. Yeah, but you have a pile of cards, and it's just things you don't want to do or things you do want to do or whatever. Like one of them that I always remember is things you don't say to a cop when he pulls you over. Yeah. And then everybody sits back and they have a piece of paper and they write the thing that they wouldn't say to a cop. Exactly. If the cop pulls them over. And then all the papers are collected. Somebody reads them off. So usually this is how we play. I don't know if it's the exact rules, but this is the easiest way to do it. If I'm reading the card, I collect all the papers and then I sit out the round. You don't necessarily have to, but I sit out the round and then read them all off twice. So after I've read them all off twice, then it goes to the person to my left, and they try to guess who said which answer. So if it's the person to my left, and they're like, oh, Dan definitely said that. Yeah. Whatever this is Dan's guess. And Dan says, yep, that's me. If it was him, he's out that round. He doesn't get to do any guesses, he is out. Yep. The person to my left that's guessing gets to keep going until they get it wrong. Once they get it wrong, it goes to the next person, and then that person gets to keep guessing until either all the guesses are gone, they can't think of anything, or they get knocked out by somebody else guessing their answer. And so every time you guess it right, if they guess Dan's correctly, they get a point. And so if somebody is really good and remembers and thinks it through and gets everyone's right, they could get 7 or 8 points in a single round. And so really fun.
Hard to beat. That would be hard to beat.
Yeah, it would be. Because it's hard to guess who said what, because people start throwing other people off by saying something differently than they otherwise would.
Exactly.
So very fun, and the reason that I like it so much is that when you get enough people around, there's a lot of creative answers that get people laughing, and just really, really fun. So definitely worth checking out.
It is.
Not expensive, and if it's something that you don't want to buy, you could definitely play the game without that, just by the explanation that I gave you.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay, Dan's going to mention number 25 because he likes this game a lot.
I do like this game a lot. So, number 25
favorite one.
Is my favorite one, Big Money. So, every player is trying to get as much money as they possibly can.
Yeah, so in this game we all become zillionaires.
Exactly. And the way you do that is you make investments in industries.
Yeah, different industries, different sectors, so like the food and the entertainment and for 3 or 4 others, I can't even remember them all, but
it's very simple. You just roll dice, and depending on what the dice show is who makes money in what industry. So in essence, what you're doing is you're rolling dice to then collect money to then invest back into industries.
So really it's like Yahtzee. At least the first part of it's like Yahtzee. You're trying to get like a 4 of a kind or a large straight or whatever, or a Yahtzee, and when you do that, you collect a certain amount of money. That money then you take and invest in different
industries.
Stocks. There's different stock certificates you can buy, and there are just different other things. Like you can buy a movie theater. You can buy a restaurant food chain.
Yeah, and so the more industries you have, the more money you will hopefully collect because the higher chances you are at the dice landing.
Yeah, because not only are you doing the Yahtzee thing, along with it is another die that rolls on one of the industries. It has an industry on each side, and so if it rolls on the entertainment industry and you have a bunch of entertainment and investments, you make a return on those and you collect some more money.
Exactly.
But there's also what's called a biz news side of the die.
Avoid that.
And every time you do that, it's like, oh, the stock market plummets. Get rid of all this type of stock or all this type of
industry or whatever. Yeah.
And so it's really fun because it's dice rolled, it's collecting, it's investing in different things, but it's very simple. There's not much to it. There's like a couple things in the whole game that you're doing.
Yeah.
Very, very fun, quick. It starts slow, gets faster and faster.
Exactly.
Really fun. So okay, let's move on to the next one though, and that is another one that has to do with money, and that's Wits and Wagers. Wits and Wagers is a boring trivia game turned fun.
Exactly.
So it asks through 7 rounds, I think, is what it is.
7 rounds.
Through 7 rounds, it asks random questions that have a quantitative answer, and so like maybe what's the most pairs of shoes owned by anyone in the world, right? And then it's like 400.
And the concept of this game, you're not supposed to know the answers.
Right.
It's supposed to get random answers that everyone writes on a little whiteboard and then turns in, and then you flip all the boards over and then you line them up on the board.
Right. So depending on some people know some of the answers, right? Trivia.
Yeah.
Everyone writes their answers on a little whiteboard. You line them up from smallest to biggest, and then everyone makes their bets with their little betting chips.
Yep.
And as you earn money, you can make higher and higher bets. Well, the odds go out from 2-1 out to 6-1, I think, on the outsides.
Yeah.
And so you make your bets, and sometimes you're way off. And you're like, oh, geez, I was way low. Everyone else is way higher, and you can bet on other people's. And really fun because it's just nobody knows, and everyone's wrong all the time, and then you just kind of you go for it and you try to make some money.
It's a low pressure game,
yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely one of those. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Number almost at 28. Number 27 is Ice Cool, another kid game, which is we wanted to include a couple on this list, and so here's another one. This one is actually, I think, it won at least Kid Board Game of the Year a couple of years ago, and in essence, it's this big house with different rooms in it, and there are 4 penguins. One's trying to catch the other 3, and the other 3 are trying to get their fish, go through certain doorways, and get their fish before that penguin can catch them. The way he catches them is by, everyone has the flick on their turn. They have to flick the penguin, and the penguin has to go through these doorways, and it's actually really hard.
It is. It is actually.
And he has to, they take turns, and so the penguin flicks and tries to get the penguins. Well, the other ones are trying to flick it through certain doorways to get the fish on top, and when they do, they get to collect a fish card that has 1, 2, or 3 fish on it. Yeah. And it's really fun.
Fish equal points.
And equal points. And so you go through, everyone is the catcher at one point, and everyone else runs the other 3 times. And then after you go through that set of 4 rounds, whoever has the most points from the fish wins.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you get caught, you don't get to get fish anymore. And so, but if you don't get caught, you collect all 3 fish that you can collect in a certain round. Then you're good to go. So anyway, very fun because it's kind of a dexterous one you're trying to teach your kids, and they seem to enjoy it. There's no rules really other than you have to take your turn, but they love flicking it. They love having a good time, and it's fun for adults too because you can get pretty good at it.
So. It is actually.
So really fun. Anyway, okay, let's move on to game number 28, and that is Survive Escape from Atlantis.
That's right.
Okay, so this one is a really fun game. Because the island that you're on is this big. It's actually quite a big board.
It is a big board.
You're all trying to escape from Atlantis because Atlantis is sinking into the ocean, and you all have a bunch of little tiny meeples. They're not really meeples, but they're kind of little meeple characters, and you're trying to work them off onto these boats that surround the island. The only problem is there aren't enough boats for people usually, and even if there are sharks and whales and sea monsters all trying to kill you, controlled by the other players. And so on a given turn, you're moving your players, you're moving boats, you're moving people who are swimming in the water. You also have the opportunity to move usually a shark, a whale, or a sea monster somewhere.
To hopefully damage the other players.
Right, so if there's a boat full of another players, guys, that's trying to get them off to the other islands, and by the way, in order to score points, you have to get them from the main island to an island off on the side. So you're moving them to the boats, to the island. And so while they're in the boats, you can break them with whales, the boats with whales. You can eat the people with sharks, or you can do both of those things with the sea monster.
Yeah.
The sea monster breaks and eats them. And so if I see another guy's
about to score
boat And I have a sea monster in the adjacent square. I can move it over there, and he gobbles them up, and then he loses all the guys on there.
I love this game because it's pretty simple, and it's such a clever concept. I mean, trying to survive from a sinking Atlantis, like, oh, I love that idea. And then how the whales and sharks and sea monsters are like your attack, who are attacking the other players. I love it.
It's awesome, really well executed game.
Absolutely.
The one thing, if you don't like games where people get mad at each other because they intentionally harm each other, this is not the game to get, because
not at all.
This has caused a number of contentions for us. And so it is what it is. It's one of those fun games, though, that is, the theme is so awesome about it. And that's what you're saying, is that it just brings the game to life. So definitely check it out. A good one. Okay, let's move on to number 29, and that is Bang. And we're going to talk about Bang, the dice game, on this one. And if you've ever played Bang, everyone assumes a character. You're either the sheriff, a deputy, an outlaw, or the renegade, right?
Yep.
And so it's concealed from everybody, and you're kind of shooting each other, and you're doing different things. But in this one, you're rolling dice, and so there's a little bit of luck to it, obviously, as with dice, with anything. But in essence, what you're trying to do, if you're the sheriff or the deputies, is you're trying to kill all the outlaws and renegade. If you're the renegade, you're trying to kill everybody.
Yeah.
If you are the outlaws, you're trying to kill everybody else. Renegade's alone usually, and so it's really hard to win. But this game has been a classic one for a long time, especially the regular one. The dice game I prefer because it is, I don't know, it just seems quicker, a little bit better. It just seems.
Plus, we do like a little bit of luck, right?
Sure.
I mean, in a lot of our games, we do like a
little bit of injected luck in there,
strategies.
Give the underdog a chance at victory.
Exactly.
And stuff. But this one is especially that. It's very fun, man. I just love the idea of being on teams, but also trying to have some sort of social deduction element to it, where you're lying or you're pretending to be something and then you don't.
Exactly.
So very, very fun game, worth checking out if you like these types. Okay, let's move on to the last one. And this is a game we've talked about in many other videos, because this is one that actually both of us hated initially and came to love, and that is Bananagrams.
Bananagrams.
So, as we've mentioned in other videos, Bananagrams comes in this banana pouch, which I don't know if that's the reason I hated it, but it is what it is.
Well, it's just a weird concept. Bananagrams, like what could you do with bananagrams?
Right, but in it, once you zip it open and you pour it out, it is a bunch of tiny little tiles with letters on them.
Yep.
And it plays, well, I don't know that it plays like anything, but you build.
Just like Scrabble. It's like you're making your own Scrabble boards.
But individual from everybody else. So the tiles are in the middle face down, and everyone grabs, depending on how many players there are, let's say everyone grabs out 20. Mm-hmm. And then on go, you flip them all over, and now you're trying to make kind of your own little Scrabble board.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to work them together, you're trying to get a long word so you can build off of that. And once somebody has built together all 20 letters, you say peel, and all that, and what that means is everyone has to grab another letter, and now you have to work that into your grid.
And what I like about this is how it allows you to destroy the board if you need to fit that one letter in.
Right, so you can deconstruct all your words and start from scratch.
Which you usually have to do with Q's and X's and
W's sometimes and stuff like that.
But then once you do that, and then if I am the one who was able to get that new letter in, I could say peel again. But then if Nathan got an S and was able to simply add it while I'm still trying to deconstruct, he can just go peel, and then just keep peeling.
Yeah, if I can work them in quickly, I just keep going, and I bury these other guys with letters, and if they're picking up Z's and X's and W's, it's like, oh man, I can't get them in, right? And so I'm advancing the game and burying them. But sometimes when you bury them enough, it helps, because now I've got E and I, and so who cares?
So you can just put it all together, and
it's very really fun. Again, another one of those games that's very simple to learn and to play, but hard to play well, because you're exercising your mind. You're trying to come up with better, longer words that work in some odd letters and stuff.
Exactly.
So very fun game. We actually enjoyed this game after we played it. Once we played it, and then we played it a million times after that. I mean, it's just so fun.
And I mean, it's so quick too. It's a very, very quick game, and so
10 minutes maybe to play around with that.
If you want to just grab a quick game, before bed or something, pull out Bananagrams, because it's quick and it's fun, and you don't need a lot of players either. So.
Yep. So definitely check that one out. Okay. So these are our 30 games. There are more than 30 games that are under $30, but these are ones that we wanted to include on the list because either we own them currently, or we've played them a ton in the past.
We love them.
Or, it's just one that, that is just an awesome game. We love that game.
It is.
Include on the list. If you guys have ones that you think were better, or that you think that are that could have been on the list had we had a 31 or whatever. Definitely comment down below. Let us know which ones you like that are $30 or less, and we'd love to hear back. Subscribe, like, do everything to engage with us as well as anyone else out there. And we love you guys. We'll see you next time.